Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Badadhari Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Badadhari Yasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Stotas of the Shri Srimad Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON to be founded, Srila Prabhupada. Jai Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Over the Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shambhakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Ganga Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 26, entitled Fundamental Principles of Material Nature, and we're on text 21. Yat tat sattva-guṇaṁ svacchaṁ. Yat tat sattva-guṇaṁ svacchaṁ. Śāntaṁ bhagavataḥ padam. Śāntam bhagavataḥ padam. Āhuḥ vāsudevākhyaṁ. Āhuḥ vāsudevākhyaṁ. Cittam tan mahat-ātmakam. Cittam tan mahat-ātmakam. Yat tat sattva-guṇaṁ svacchaṁ. Śāntam bhagavataḥ padam. Āhuḥ vāsudevākhyaṁ. Cittam tan mahat-ātmakam. Vaishnavis. Yat, which, tat, that, sattva-guṇaṁ, the mode of goodness, svacchaṁ, clear, śāntaṁ, sober, bhagavataḥ, of the personality of Godhead, padam, the status of understanding, yat, which, āhuḥ, is called, vāsudeva-ākhyam, by the name of Vāsudeva, cittam, consciousness, tat, that, mahat-ātmakam, manifest in the mahat-tattva. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. The mode of goodness, which is the clear, sober status of understanding the personality of Godhead, and which is generally called Vāsudeva, or consciousness, becomes manifest in the mahat-tattva. Purport. The Vāsudeva manifestation, or the status of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called pure goodness, or śuddha-sattva. In the śuddha-sattva status, there is no infringement of the other qualities, namely passion and ignorance. In the Vedic literature, there is mention of the Lord's expansion as the four personalities of Godhead, Vāsudeva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. Here is the reappearance of the mahat-tattva, the four expansions of Godhead occur. He who is seated within as Supersoul expands first as Vāsudeva. The Vāsudeva stage is free from infringement by material desires and is the status in which one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the objective which is described in the Bhagavad Gita as adbhuta. This is another feature of mahat-tattva. The Vāsudeva expansion is called Krishna consciousness, for it is free from all tinges of material passion and ignorance. This clear state of understanding helps one to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vāsudeva status is also explained in Bhagavad Gita as kshetrajñā, which refers to the knower of the field of activities as well as the superknower. The living being who has occupied a particular type of body knows that body, but the superknower, Vāsudeva, knows not only a particular type of body, but also the field of activities in all different varieties of bodies. In order to be situated in clear consciousness or Krishna consciousness, one must worship Vāsudeva. Vāsudeva is Krishna alone. When Krishna or Vishnu is alone, without the accompaniment of his internal energy, he is Vāsudeva. When he is accompanied by his internal potency, he is called Dwarkadish. To have clear consciousness or Krishna consciousness, one has to worship Vāsudeva. It is also explained in Bhagavad Gita that after many, many births, one surrenders to Vāsudeva. Such a great soul is very rare. In order to get release from the false ego, one has to worship Saṅkarṣaṇa. Saṅkarṣaṇa is also worshipped through Lord Shiva. The snakes which cover the body of Lord Shiva are representations of Saṅkarṣaṇa, and Lord Shiva is always absorbed in meditation upon Saṅkarṣaṇa. One who is actually a worshipper of Lord Shiva as a devotee of Saṅkarṣaṇa can be released from false material ego. If one wants to get free from material disturbances, one has to worship, Mental, yeah. If one wants to get free from mental disturbances, one has to worship Aniruddha. For this purpose, worship of the moon planet is also recommended in the Vedic literature. Similarly, to be fixed in one's intelligence, one has to worship Pradyumna, who was reached through the worship of Brahma. These matters are explained in Vedic literature. Om Agyanat Tamiram Dasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunamilitamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. So this is a pretty technical sort of a verse and purport. This whole section of the Bhagavatam we're going through is pretty technical. But in the purport, it's explained that, in the first part of the purport, it explains how these are manifestations, these different deities, basically, they manifest, how does it put it? In the reappearance of the mahat-tattva, the four expansions of Godhead occur. And so the purport's telling us something about the Vasudeva state, which is also referred to as śuddha-sattva consciousness or Krishna consciousness. And then it goes on to tell us in the second paragraph more about that Vasudeva state, how in the Bhagavad Gita it's referred to adbhuta, and Prabhupada also mentions it's referred to kshetragya, and what its qualities are. And then he goes on to explain what is the result of worshiping Vasudeva, and then he goes on in the latter part of the purport to explain, because he does mention that these four different expansions of Krishna, Vasudeva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, that's the first quadruple expansion, how they appear, as we just mentioned, reappear during the reappearance of the mahat-tattva. These four expansions of Godhead occur. So then he goes on to explain what is the result of worshiping Saṅkarṣaṇa, what is the benefit of worshiping Aniruddha, and what is the benefit of worshiping Pradyumna. So all this information is presented in this purport. And it's presented more in my perception of it is more in a mood of, it's giving information. And as Prabhupada's presenting Siddhanta, I don't feel like by reading this purport, I don't feel so much I'm being instructed, or we're being instructed to specifically worship Vasudeva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, but he's just kind of informing us. He's giving us the information that traditionally, historically, according to the Siddhanta, these different expansions of Krishna worship, and this is the result. As far as we're concerned, the word worship is used quite a bit in this purport in reference to these different expansions. And what's more relevant for us is that verse from the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam Sango Pangash Jagnayar Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedhasaha. So in other words, worship is always good thing, but there's certain types of worship that are prescribed for a certain time, place, and circumstance. For instance, in the previous yuga, I don't know if it was the previous yuga or the first yuga, there was a different mantra. They had a different mantra. I can't remember it. I once learned it, but the Hare Krishna mantra wasn't like the mantra that was chanted. But so in this day and age, though, we recommend to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. And in that verse I just quoted, it says that Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam Sango, that in this age of Kali, Krishna will come as a Sango in a different form. And his weapons will be his associates, and he'll be a golden color, and he'll be always chanting, he'll be always engaged in the Sankirtan. And so those who are intelligent will worship him by the performance of the Sankirtan Yajna. See, so that's the worship that we're recommended to do. Not that there's anything wrong with worshiping Vasudeva, Saṅkarṣaṇa, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, but the worship that we're recommended to do specifically in this age of Kali is this worship Lord Chaitanya by the Sankirtan Yajna. So, as I said, the word worship, that comes up quite a bit in this purport. A dictionary definition of that word is the feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for a deity. Now, in that verse, Sango Yagnaya Sankirtana Prayaya Yajanti, it talks about the Sankirtan sacrifice, Jagna Sankirtana, the sacrifice of Sankirtan. So what's a sacrifice? What does it mean, sacrifice? Once again, the dictionary definition of that word is an act of giving up something valued for the sake of something else regarded as more worthy or important. So that's what we're meant to do. We're meant to engage in Saṅkarṣaṇa, perform the Saṅkarṣaṇa sacrifice. And so how is Saṅkarṣaṇa a sacrifice? Well, it's a sacrifice in this sense that what are we meant to, what is it that we're supposed to sacrifice in order to engage in Saṅkarṣaṇa? We know what Saṅkarṣaṇa is. We have to sacrifice our time. We have to sacrifice our energy, sacrifice our intelligence by utilizing it to how to perform Saṅkarṣaṇa. Sacrifice our resources, money, for instance. Bad habits, you have to give them up. That's a form of sacrifice. Preferences, we might like to do this and not like to do that, but we have to be prepared to just do what's required to perform the sacrifice, to favorably perform the activity of Saṅkarṣaṇa. We have to be prepared to give up our comfort, subtle and gross. You got to come out of the comfort zone to perform Saṅkarṣaṇa. So all those things are there. Basically, the overall thing is we have to give up the sense of what makes me happy as the most important consideration for either doing something or not doing something. In other words, the most important consideration is what will please Krishna. That's the most important consideration. What's going to please Krishna, not what's going to please me. Okay? Then you're sacrificing. When you're sacrificing, well, putting you first. We're putting me first, putting Krishna's pleasure first and our secondary. And in the process of doing that, you'll be sacrificing those different things I mentioned: time, energy, intelligence, resources, bad habits, preferences, comfort, etc. But it's all, as a means to that end, that I'm trying to pleasing Krishna first as the top priority and me secondary. So how do we please Krishna? Well, we all know we have to please the devotee. We have to please Krishna's representative. That's how we, learn how to please Krishna. We chant it every day. Yasya prasada, bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadan. Javita always makes that point. It's, Nagatītha, you have to, by the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets the mercy of Krishna. Without this mercy of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. So we learn how to please Krishna by pleasing the representative. Representative means the spiritual master, but it means like an advanced devotee, right? In our case, I would like to suggest that pleasing Krishna is most successfully done, most effectively done by figuring how to please Srila Prabhupada. And I say this because Prabhupada is, of course, he was spiritual master, but his position is like more than just a spiritual master. I'll kind of explain. So somebody could be an advanced devotee, but not necessarily be an advanced devotee, right? Somebody could be a spiritual master, but not necessarily be an acharya. An acharya is like, a special position, even among spiritual masters. If somebody's the acharya, that's like, okay, they're like the leader. Somebody could be an acharya, but not necessarily be some Stapak acharya, the founder acharya. And somebody could be that and not necessarily be Nitya-lila Pravishta, somebody who's an eternal associate of Krishna. Well, Prabhupada was all those things. Prabhupada was an advanced devotee, spiritual master, founder acharya, eternal associate of Krishna. See, so Prabhupada's position is really special within ISKCON for everybody, not just for people who got diksha from him, which is, if you did, that's very, very fortunate. But any member of ISKCON has a special relationship with Prabhupada because Prabhupada is the Shiksha Guru for everybody within ISKCON. So, figuring out how to please Prabhupada is something that's important for everybody, every member of ISKCON, whether doesn't matter what temple you're in, who your spiritual master is, like that. And there's different things basic things that made Prabhupada happy, that Prabhupada was pleased. And I kind of made a list of some, which, pretty basic things, but it's, there's a lot of repetition in Krishna consciousness. We go over basic things a lot, so no fault. So devotees should rise by 4 a.m. They should attend Mangal Arti. They should chant 16 rounds, trying to avoid the 10 offenses. Regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Try to avoid offending other devotees. Worship the deities. Try to spread the movement some way or another. It doesn't matter. You can, distributing books is not the only way. There's prasadam distribution. There's harinam. There's so many different. But the effort should be there to try to spread the Krishna conscious movement. Cooperate with temple authorities, follow the four regulative principles, follow other regulations, other rules and regulations that Srila Prabhupada gave us, like fasting on Ekadasi, etc., like that. Bathe, keep clean, only eat prasadam. We heard about that yesterday. Try to always be engaged in devotional service. Try to always remember Krishna, and Prabhupada, pray for the mercy of the predecessor acharyas, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the mercy of the predecessor acharyas, and by doing that we'll get the mercy of Krishna. So that's an important thing. And today is the disappearance day of three very great devotees, three members of the Six Goswamis, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And so this is, I'm going to try to say something about them as well. So Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was the son of Tapan Mishra. And Tapan Mishra was an established devotee of Lord Chaitanya. If you remember in the past times, when Lord Chaitanya went to Varanasi, he stayed at the home of either Chandrasekhar or Tapan Mishra, but those were his only two devotees there, Chandrasekhar, Tapan Mishra. So Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was the son of Tapan Mishra, who had regular association with Lord Chaitanya. And Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, I don't know what his name was at that point, but he also had some association with Lord Chaitanya. He got to massage Lord Chaitanya's feet. And when he got older and he finished his studies, his father sent him to Jagannath Puri to get the association of Lord Chaitanya and the devotees. So he arrived there, and he was renowned. He was very well known for reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam. He could recite the Srimad Bhagavatam perfectly in 4 different melodies. And they used to, even Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya used to listen to his recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was also very expert in kirtan. And he was famous for that. And even these very elevated devotees would appreciate his kirtans. And he lived out his entire life there. He never wrote any books. Then you have Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Gopal Bhatta Goswami was the son of Venkata Bhatta. And the story of his association with Lord Chaitanya goes like this, that Lord Chaitanya on his tour of South India, when he arrived at Sri Rangam, where there's the big temple, he went into the temple and he was chanting in front of the deities, and he was in total ecstasy, chanting and dancing, and tears were shooting out of his eyes, basically, and the devotees were kind of like amazed to see that. And there was big crowds around him, and they were just like, wow, who is this person? Is he the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or what? Who we've never seen anybody manifest, such these kind of ecstatic symptoms. Anyway, so Venkata Bhatta, he pushed his way through the crowd, and he got to where Lord Chaitanya, got right up where Lord Chaitanya was. Lord Chaitanya was like in ecstatic trance, but when he came out to more like, what is it, Arda, Bahir, and Arda, more like external consciousness, he begged for his mercy. He begged Lord Chaitanya for his mercy. And Lord Chaitanya embraced him and said, Krishna, Krishna. And anyway, so Venkata Bhatta took that as a good thing, positive thing. And so he said, he begged him, please, this is the rainy season now, Chaturmas, so please accept this invitation, stay at my home for the rainy season. So Lord Chaitanya said, okay. So he stayed with him for, 4 months, I believe. He stayed at his home for 4 months, and they would always be, discussing Krishna Katha like that. On one occasion, Lord Chaitanya, so he was a member of the Sri, what's his name? Sorry? Ramanuja Sampradaya. He was a member of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, which they worship Lord Narayan as the Supreme, and Lakshmi Narayan. So he was, but they would have discussions, but on one occasion, Lord Chaitanya said to him, hey, why is it that your Lakshmi, she's supposed to be the most supreme chaste lady, why is it that she wants to associate with my Krishna, who's like a cowherd boy? What's going on here? And so Venkata Bhatta correctly answered. He said, well, Lord Narayan and Lord Krishna are the same person. Lakshmi is not violating her chastity by wanting to associate with Krishna. And that was the correct answer. Lord Chaitanya accepted that, and he said, yeah, okay, fair. That's a good answer. He said, but why is it that Lakshmi she was trying to get into the rasa dance, but she was unsuccessful, whereas the Shruti-ganas, the personified Vedas, they were able to do it. Why was that? And he couldn't answer. Venkata couldn't answer that question. And Lord Chaitanya went on to explain to him that the reason was that she wanted to maintain her mood of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She wasn't prepared to accept the mood of the gopis, whereas the Shruti-ganas, they were the personified Vedas, they did that. They just followed in the footsteps of the gopis, in the mood of the gopis, and they were allowed to enter into the rasa dance, whereas Lakshmi was not. Anyway, upon hearing that explanation of Lord Chaitanya, Venkata could understand that actually Krishna's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, he understood the Siddhanta the way Lord Chaitanya wanted him to, and he became a Krishna devotee at that point. He worshipped Krishna as supreme, as opposed to Lord Narayan. So anyway, Lord Chaitanya, upon leaving, after the 4 months were up, during that time, actually, when he was staying at his home, Gopal Bhatta Goswami was just a very young boy, like, 3, 4, 5, something like that. And Lord Chaitanya, on occasion would call him, and he'd embrace him, have him sit on his lap, and he'd hug him, and he'd give him his remnants of his food stuff. And upon leaving, he told him, okay, you stay here. I want you to stay here, and you take care of your mother and father. And when they leave, you come and join me. So he did exactly that. He did exactly that. And when his parents got older, they repeated the same instruction to him. They told him, okay, we're going to be departing pretty soon. So when we depart, we want you to go to Jagannath Puri and, get the association of Lord Chaitanya. That's exactly what he did. And he was sent to Vrindavan at some point, and he was welcomed by Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. They became very good friends. He was also a great scholar, and he wrote different books. He actually was, Satsang Darbo, he wrote like the rough draft, and Srila Jiva Goswami kind of systematized it. He kind of like polished it up, but how would you say it? The nuts and bolts of the Satsang Darbo was actually produced by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And there's different pastimes. One, probably the most famous pastime, most well-known pastime associated with Gopal Bhatta Goswami was he was on a pilgrimage, or he was traveling north, and he was going through Hardwar, and there was some problem, and some Brahmin took him in to his home, and he was very grateful to the Brahmin, and he noticed the Brahmin didn't have any son. So he gave the Brahmin a blessing. He said, may Krishna, may you have a son who becomes a great devotee of Krishna. And that's what happened. Well, I'm jumping ahead here, but anyway, he gave him that blessing. And then he went on, he continued going north, and he actually went into Nepal, and he went to the Kali Gandaki River. And it's mentioned in his biography that the river gave him 12 shalagram shilas. So that sounds funny. How does a river give you 12 shalagram shilas? Well, they practically jumped out of the river to, into his bag. He had a bag, and I can't remember how did it go. He was looking for shalagram. I can't remember the exact detail, but it was something out of the ordinary. Anyway, he wound up with 12 shalagram shilas as a result of his visit to the Kali Gandaki River, and then he went back to Vrindavan. And so he was worshiping, the 12 shalagram shilas, but he had a desire to worship like a deity form, a personal form of Krishna. And there was one merchant who wanted to do some service for him. So he gave him all these beautiful deity clothings, which for a particular... Anyway, so he after receiving that, before he went to sleep one night, he was praying, I wish I had a regular, also a deity that I could worship and, utilize these garments. And anyway, he had that desire. So one night, he went to sleep. One morning, he woke up, and one of those 12 shalagram shilas was transformed into a deity, a beautiful deity, about so big, right? Radha Raman, that's okay, that big. miraculously. And he was overwhelmed by ecstasy, because we could understand that this was like something, Krishna did this. And other devotees, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, the news got out, basically. And the other great devotees, like such as Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and other great devotees came, and they were like, wow, this is amazing. And so they made a temple, and to this day, those deities are being worshipped in the temple, Radharaman temple. They were named Radharaman by the Goswamis, and they're still being worshipped to this day. And 10 years later, after that incident, he went to his quarters, and there was this young man there, and who are you? And he said, he said, where are you from? He said, I'm from this village, Sharanapur, or something like that. Anyway, it worked out, he was the son. He was the son of that man he gave the blessing to, that your son is going to be a great devotee of Krishna. So, the man, I forgot to say at the time, the man, in response to that blessing, he said, well, I will, if that happens, I will give him to you for your service. So it happened, and that man sent that boy to serve Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and he actually became the pujari, and he was pujari of the Radharaman deity for many 40 years or something like that. So great devotee. And then, of course, Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of very wealthy landowner, I guess you could call him, and fabulously wealthy. And he was also a devotee, but not like a renunciate kind of a devotee. Anyway, he was brought up, and he was married. He had a beautiful wife. He had, absolutely no worry about how he would maintain wealth or anything like that. Everything was there. But at some early part of his life, he got the association of Lord Nityananda, and he got the Krishna Bhakti was kind of like ignited within him, and he was greedy. He was greedy for devotional service. So despite the fact that he had everything materially there, one could possibly imagine, desire, he was wanting to just leave it all behind. And he used to try to, sneak away, run away from home, leaving all the wealth, leaving his wife, and to just be associate with the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. But his father had servants. They would capture him and bring him back home. Anyway, finally, at one point, he was able to get the association of successfully run away from home. He kind of tricked the family and everything, and he got to be with Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. And I believe he was there with, Lord Chaitanya turned him over to the care of Swarup Damodar, who was his immediate associate. And he was there with them for like 18, 19 years. And then both of them left their body, Lord Chaitanya first and then Swarup Damodar shortly after that. And Raghunath Das Goswami at that point just decided, well, there's no point for me to continue living. If Lord Chaitanya is gone, Swarup Damodar is gone, I might as well just leave my body. So he went to Vrindavan with the plan of committing suicide by jumping off Govardhan Hill. That was his plan. And when he got there, he was met by Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and he revealed the plan to him, and they said, "Oh no, hang on, don't do that. It's okay. You can experience Lord Chaitanya's association and separation." They convinced him to stay, and what the service was, the program he accepted or adopted was for 3 hours every day. He would be at Radhakund, and he would discourse about Lord Chaitanya. Now, he would just speak about Lord Chaitanya for 3 hours a day, and he did that for years and years and years. He actually lived for 40 years at Radhakund like that. And he was very famous for his renunciation. He would have like a leaf cup of buttermilk, like yogurt, thin yogurt. That was his diet. And at one point, he was only having like a little bit of fruit. Practically, he ate nothing. Practically. And then after Sanatana Goswami passed away, he reduced that. And then after Rupa Goswami passed away, he was eating nothing. And, he was just miraculously somehow alive. But he used to chant a lakh of rounds every day, 64 rounds every day. He'd offer obeisances to Krishna 1,000 times. He'd offer obeisances to 2,000 Vaishnavas a day. That's what's stated. And the people, when they would see him, they just about be crying because they could see how, how weak and, it wasn't like he was robust and all buff or, he was like very, but he just somehow or another, he was just doing his bhajan like that, and, amazing devotee. So all of these devotees are actually manjaris. They're eternal associates of, these three devotees, they're eternal associates of Krishna in the spiritual world. I can't remember who's who, but I think Raghunath Das Goswami is Rati Manjari. Who? I can't hear you, but that's okay. Anyway, they're different manjaris and the eternal associates of Krishna. So today is a good day to pray for their mercy. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was on the count. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was more or less a contemporary of the six Goswamis, although he was a little bit after them. And he used to hear, he was actually one of the people that was present when Raghunath Das Goswami was discoursing on Lord Chaitanya for 3 hours every day. And he took careful notes, or he had a good memory, or both. And he is the author of, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He began that work at a very late age, and only because the devotees approached him, because they already had some biography of Lord Chaitanya. They had the, what was it called? Chaitanya Mangal by Vrindavan Das Thakur. But that was mostly talking about earlier pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So they wanted to hear the latter pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And they knew that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was present when Raghunath Das Goswami was, discoursing about all this. So they requested him to write a book about the latter pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And I think he was already in his 90s when he began that work. And he actually writes, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he himself says, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm really old. I can, my hands are shaking. I can't see very well. I can't hear very well. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but anyway, I'm going to try. And actually, when you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he actually gives a summary of all the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya right in the beginning of the Madhya Lila. And he says, the reason is because I don't know how long I'm going to live. I'm going to live long enough to complete this book. So I'm giving you a summary right here, a very synopsis of the pastimes. So in case something happens and I can't continue, at least you got this. Fortunately, he was able to continue, and he wrote quite a bit more after that. But amazing, great devotee, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So today's a good day really good day to pray for the mercy of these predecessor acharyas. I was going to bring, but I forgot, but I have that picture of the six Goswamis with the caption under it, and in the, it's relevant, really relevant today, because okay, so that's from a verse. There's a verse in the Anchalila Volume 1, and it goes, H.I. Goshai Kodi Chadana Vandan, Jaha Hoite Bignanash Abhishtaparan. It's Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami speaking, and he says, I pray to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis, Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami, so that all my impediments to writing this literature will be annihilated, and my real desire will be fulfilled. And in the purport, Prabhupada just kind of reiterates what he's saying, what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, and elaborates upon it. And it's a short paragraph of the purport. And at the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, nevertheless, if we adhere to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis and pray for their mercy, as Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was doing there, he says, all impediments will be annihilated, and the transcendental devotional desire to serve the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. So it's a very ecstatic purport. So I have kind of created there's a picture of the six Goswamis with the verse from the Anchalila Volume 1 in that purport, and on the back is the song, Sri Sri Sad Goswami Astaka by Srinivasacharya, Sanskrit and English. So I was going to bring copies, but I forgot. But if anybody would like one, they could ask me, and I'll give them a copy of that. It's already in like a little plastic page protector, but please value it. If you come and want one, I don't mind. I'm happy to give one, but just tape it up on your wall or learn the song or something. Don't just fold it up and lose it by the end of the day. So, thank you. Does anybody have any question? Rabindranath Prabhu.
Yeah, you mentioned about certain spiritual masters who are acharyas. So how does that work in terms of the Diksha Guru, the Siksha Guru, and those who first bring you to the path of Krishna consciousness? Are they all acharyas or some, or how does that work?
Somebody want to do that? You want to handle that, answer that one?
Well, the first thing is that the Sanskrit word acharya means one who teaches by example. So it can be applied to any bona fide spiritual master. It's not that you're a bona fide spiritual master, but you're not an acharya. If you're not an acharya, then you're not a bona fide spiritual master. Because the Sanskrit word acharya means one who teaches by example. Now, amongst all the acharyas, in other words, qualified devotees, there are some who stand out, obviously. Just like you mentioned these three today, they stand out. But it doesn't mean that the other devotees were not bona fide or somehow lesser or... No, that's just Krishna's arrangement. By Krishna's arrangement, certain devotees stand out in certain circumstances, like the Pandavas in fighting in Kurukshetra, etc., etc. It doesn't mean that anybody else is lesser. We shouldn't have that idea, that the other devotees who are not necessarily mentioned as much, they're somehow lesser. No, any devotee, pure devotee of the Lord, is a great soul, obviously. You can't be a pure devotee of the Lord and not be a great soul. But by Krishna's arrangement in past times, some stand out more than others. But the word acharya can be applied to any teacher, bona fide teacher of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, it's a good clarification. I guess I was trying to...
This society is very unique because Srila Prabhupada is the founder acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So in this particular society, Srila Prabhupada is always the preeminent guru acharya because he's the founder of this society.
Yeah. I was trying to glorify Prabhupada. Maybe it wasn't such a good explanation. Anybody else have anything they want to? Okay, thank you very much. Kunjat Srimad Prabhupada Ki Jai.